Hello everyone and welcome to this lecture. My name is Burhanuddin and in this lecture we are going to learn about intents, that how we can switch between different activities using intent and how we can pass data between those activities. So let's get started and open Android Studio and create a new project. Click on Start a new project, select an empty activity and click on Next. Now, I will name this as Intent App. Now click on Finish and let's just wait until the Gradle are built successfully. Okay, so my project is ready now. So let's just open our activity main under .xml layout, and now let's just design our layout first. Just close this pane and switch to code view in order to remove this constraint layout and change it to the linear layout and remove this text view from our design. Okay, so let's just switch to the split view in order to preview the changes that we made in the code. So first let's just delete this text view. Now let's just change this constraint layout to linear layout. Okay, now let's just change our background to my color primary so that it becomes same as the color of my action bar. Now let's just put a text and a button at the center of this linear layout. Okay, so in order to do that, first let's change the orientation of the linear layout, because we know that by default the orientation of the linear layout will be horizontal. Okay, so let's just change that orientation from horizontal to vertical. Okay, so let's just type orientation and then change it to vertical. Now as I want my UI elements in the linear layout to be at the center, so I need to define a gravity attribute for that and assign a value center to it. So this will put my UI element at the center of my linear layout. Now let's just take a text view, give this text view a layout width of mesh parent and layout height of wrap content. Now let's just put some text in it in order to preview the changes. Okay, so let's just put this is a text view. Okay, so now let's just increase the size of the text to 30 sp, make them bold. For that we will use the text style attribute to make it bolder. Okay, so now let's just change the text color to white. For that we will use text color attribute and change it to white FFF. Okay, let's just increase the size of the text a little bit. Let's just make it 40 and let's just change the text to this is first activity. Okay, now let's just center this text, and to do that we apply the gravity attribute to this also. So let's just make the gravity attribute to center and let's just close this text view. Okay, now I want to create a button below this text view, and to do that let's just create a button element with the width of mesh parent and the height of wrap content. Okay, now let's just add some text to it. Click me, or for the better understanding let's just type move to second activity. Now let's just change the background color of the button to white and the text color to be same as the color primary. Let's just give the button a bit of margin. From all the side I want the margins to be 20 dp. Let's just make the size of the text a little bit bolder and bigger. For that I'll use text style attribute to be bold and text size attribute to be 20 sp. Okay, this looks fine. Now let's just give this button an ID of btn1 @sign plus ID slash btn1 . Okay, that's it. Okay, now let's just run our code and see how does it looks. Okay, so this is how our application looks right now. Okay, now let's just move on to the Java file to implement our logic. Now what we want that whenever the user click on this button, I want the user to be moved to the another screen. So let's see how can we do that. Let's just first create an instance of our button, and for that let's just type private button file limited btn1. Now let's just assign some initialize this reference variable using btn1, and this will be of type button, and find view by id r.id.btn1. okay, put the semicolon at the end, and now we are good to go. Now we want to create a listener for this button. So let's just create anonymous listener, and for that I will say btn1, or instead let's just make this class listener because we need to make some more changes. Okay, so now let's just create anonymous listener for this class for now. Okay, so I will type btn1 dot set on click listener, and then new on click listener. This will create an anonymous listener for me, and then I can implement my logic inside this on click method. So now I want to move to another activity, so we can do this using intents. So first of all we need to create an object of the intent, and to do that we can write intent with capital I. As you can see, this class intent came from android.content. Okay, so now I will create the object for this intent, and I will name it as intent. Then for creating the new object I will use the keyword new and then intent. Okay, now let's put the semicolon at the end. Okay, so now I want to change the class in order to change the activity. So to do that I can specify that intent dot. Now you can see these are the whole methods that I can use with this object of intent. So for now let's just use set class method, set class. Now this set class method takes two arguments. Okay, and the first one will be the current activity, and the second one will be the activity that we want to be moved on. Okay, so the first one is my main activity, so I'll specify main activity dot this, and now my second activity that I want to move on will be second activity dot class. Okay, put the semicolon at the end, and now this is showing me an error because second activity we have not created second activity yet, but whenever we will create the second activity, this error will be gone. Okay, so let's just not look at that error, and let's just move ahead in our code. Okay, so now we need to start this intent in order to move to the next activity, and to do that we have a method called start activity, which takes an argument of an intent. So we need to pass this intent object to this method, so we will say intent. Okay, so we are done for the main activity. So now let's just move on to the let's just click on this project pane, and now here right click on your package folder. In order to create a new activity, click on the new and activity, and we can select from any of this activity, but for now let's just create an empty activity. Let's just name it as second activity. Now check on this generate layout file in order to generate a layout file for it. And now don't click on this launcher activity because we don't want this activity to be our launcher activity. Now click on finish. Let's just wait for the activity to be created. Okay, now as you can see, this Android Studio is showing me an error for the layout file. This is maybe because of the activity is not generated properly. So in order to solve this problem, what we can do is we can invalidate the caches and restart the Android Studio, and this will might solve our problem. And so do that. So click on this file and click on this invalidate caches and restart. Now let's just click on this and terminate our app. Okay, so now let's just wait for the Android Studio to come up again. Okay, so my project is built successfully now, and as you can see, the error is gone. So this might happen sometimes that Android Studio may show you some unwanted and unnecessary errors. So just do one thing, apply invalidate caches and restart your Android Studio, and this will solve your problems. Okay, so now let's just click on hold the controller command and click on this activity second in order to move to the activity and underscore second.xml layout file. Let's just close this project pane, and now let's just start designing this our second activity. So now let's just change this constraint layout to linear layout. Now let's just open the split view in order to preview the changes. Now I want to put a text view at the middle with the width of match parent and the height of wrap content. Now I want this text view to say this is second activity. Okay, now I want the background of my linear layout to be same as color primary, so I'll say background color primary, and I want the UI element to be at the center, so I will say gravity center. Okay, so now let's just apply the gravity attribute to this text view also. I will say gravity center. Okay, now let's just change the font color to white, so I will say text color to white FFF, and now let's just change the size of the text to be 30 sp as well, and make the text bolder, so bold. Let's just close this tag, and now we are done. Okay, so now let's just run our application, and if we check out our main activity, you can see that the error is gone. Now let's just check out our application and see whether it is working or not. Okay, so here is my app, and if I click on this move to second activity button, now you can see that it has moved to the second activity. If I click on back, it is again moved to the first activity. Okay, so now if I want, okay, so that was how we can move from one activity to other activity. Okay, so now if we want to move or pass a data between two different activities, what we need to do is pass the data along. Now if I want to pass the data between two different activities, I can do that using this intent object. Okay, so let's just check out how we can do that. And for that, let's just create a login application in which user can register themselves and go to the home screen. Okay, so now let's just create new activity, click on this package folder, and right click on it, and new activity. Okay, let's just name it as page 1, and we want this activity to be launcher activity, so that we can start our application from this activity. Okay, so click on this launcher activity icon and click on finish. As you can see, my page 1 activity is now created. Now let's just create other activities as well. So then this activity page 1 will be the first screen in which user will be able to click on the register button, so that he or she can move on to the registration page. Okay, so now let's just create that registration page. So now click on next, click on the package, right click on the package folder, click on new, and just create a new activity. I'll select the blank activity and I will name it as registration. I'll generate the layout file and click on finish. Okay, so now I want the user after registration to be moved to the home screen. So let's just create another activity with the name home. I'll name it as home and click on finish. Okay, now as our activities are created, now let's just move on and open the manifest file. And now we can see that there are two main launcher activities, but now we don't no longer want the main activity to use. Now we don't longer want to use the main activity as a launcher activity, so let's just remove the intent filter from it. Okay, now if we don't remove this intent filter, then we need to configure our app. Go to this app, click on this drop down, and now we need to edit configurations and change the our main activity or launcher activity. So we can do that using this, click on this drop down next to this launch and change it to the specified activity. Now we can specify an activity which we want to open as our launcher activity. As we want our page 1 activity to be our launcher activity, we will select that and click on OK. And now we can apply the changes and click on OK. Now if you open our application, you will see that page 1 will be our launcher activity. So let's just reinstall our app and see what is happening. Now as you can see, the page 1 is my launcher activity instead of our main activity. Now let's just start designing our page 1 activity. Okay, press Ctrl command and click on this activity page 1. Now let's just close the and switch to the split view. Change this layout to the linear layout. Now we want the background of this linear layout to be an image, not a color. So first of all, let's just import some images so that we can put them in our background. So for that, click on the rest folder and click on drawable. Remember, we have downloaded some images for our imagery application in our previous project. So let's just use them only. So for that, click on this rest folder and show in Explorer. Okay. Now I'll go to my downloads. Now here are my images. Okay. So I will copy them all and paste it in this folder. Now as you can see, the images have been added in my Android Studio. So now we can use them. So for the background of this page 1, let's just use that Apple image that we have used earlier. So for that, I will type background. Now instead of color, I will refer to the drawable folder, and now I can select from any of these images. So I will use drawable healthy in order, and now you can see that background image has been changed to that apple. Okay. Now I want the all the UI elements at the bottom of this linear layout. So I will type background, or instead what we can do is let's just create a text view here. Give it a layout width of mesh parent and layout height of wrap content. Okay. Now let's just hide this. Okay. Now let's just give this text value some value. Okay. Let's just let's just give this text view some value. So I will write text and let's say welcome to New York apple farm. Okay. Let's just change the font of the color text color. Let's just change the color of this font to Android text color to be white. Make it bold and also change the text size to be 30 sp. Now let's assign a gravity attribute to that in order to center it. Now it's look good. Okay. Now okay, so let's do it like it this way. Welcome to 10/n in order to put it on the next line. Now it looks better. Now what we want is give this text view attribute a weight value so that it we can specify we can put our button on the bottom and the text on the rest of the screen. So how we can do that? We can just type layout weight and assign a value 1 to this element. Okay, so now let's just close this element, and now let's just add a button to this layout. For that I will type button. Let's just give the layout width to mesh parent and the layout height to be wrap content. Now as you can see, we are unable to see the button here. Oops. Okay. Now as you can see, as I put the button, I am unable to see the text view. This is because by default the orientation of the linear layout is horizontal. So let's just change it to vertical. Okay, so now everything is working fine. Now let's just add some text to this button. We will say register now. Okay, that's fine. Let's just change the color of this button to be white. So I'll say FFF. Okay, and the text color to be same as our action bar color, that is color primary. So I'll say text color to be color primary. Now let's just increase the size of the font. I'll say text size to be 25 sp or 20 sp. Okay, now let that look good. Now make it bold. So I'll say text style to be bold. Now let's just assign this button an ID and we are good to go. I'll say ID to be BTN or BTN registration. Okay. Now let's just close the attribute and let's just increase this font size of the text view a little bit. Let's just make it 60 XP or 50 SP. Okay. Or we can say 45 SP. Let's just keep it 40. Okay, that's look good. So now let's just run our application and take a look at how it does look. So let's just reinstall our application. And now as you can see, our application is working completely fine now. Okay. So now as you can see, we are unable to read this apple. So what we can do, we can assign a padding at the bottom so that it moves a little bit upwards. So let's just assign the padding bottom to be 30 dp or more, or you can say 50 dp. Let's just keep it 60. Okay, that's look good. And now let's just move on to the Java file in order to move the user to the registration activity. Okay, so now here is page1.java. Let's just close all other files, right click on this activity and then close all. Okay, we have mistakenly clicked on the close all instead of close others. So let's just open the page one and now let's just create a reference variable of this button. I'll say private button btn1, or I'll say btn registration. Okay, import the classes for this button. I'll enter and then initiate this button. btn registration equals to find view by id. It is okay if you don't mention the button, if you don't cast this into button type. r.id dot btn registration. Okay. Now let's just create an anonymous class listener. I'll say btn registration dot set on click listener, and then I will say new on click listener, and I will create an intent object. I'll say it as intent. Let's just import classes for intent as well, and then I can say equals to new object, that is new intent. And now instead of setting the class separately, I can actually pass the values of the set class method into this intent constructor directly. So how can I do that? The name of my activity, that is page1.java. So I can set it page1.this to, I want to move to registration.class. So I can say registration.class. Okay, now put the semicolon at the end and we are good to go. Now we want to start our intent It is start activity intent. Now let's just run our application to see how does it looks. And now my application is up and running, and now as you can see, if I click on this register now button, I am getting moved to the registration activity. Okay, so now let's just design the registration activity. Let's just open the project pane, rest folder, layout. Let's just click on activity registration and close the pane. Now let's just switch to the split view. Okay, so now let's just change this constraint layout to linear layout. Okay, now let's just change the orientation of this linear layout first to vertical and assign a background color of color primary to this background color to be color primary. Now let's just add some UI elements into this. So we want some information from the user, and that are the name of the user, email ID from the user, username and a password in order to assign a login value in future if we want, and then image view in order to take choose the in order to get the profile picture of the user, and then we will also add some radio buttons in order to ask for the male or female, and then a button to store the activity and move it to the first page, that is move it to the third page, that is our home page. Okay, so now let's just add them one by one. So first of all, we need some text views. I say text view to be width to be mesh parent and height to be wrap content. Oh, we want to take input from the user, so instead of text view, what we'll use, we will use edit text. Okay, I will say layout width to be mesh parent and layout height to be wrap content. Okay, now let's just give this a hint to be enter your name. Okay, change the text, set the text size to 15 sp, that's enough, or let's just make it 20 sp to make it look bigger. Okay, now text hint color to be white and the text color to be white also, to be white. Okay, so now let's just assign an ID to it. We will say name. Okay, name, EDT name. Okay, so now let's just close this. Okay, now we don't want to write this whole thing again and again, so what will we do? Click on the next line and select the whole edit text, and now click on Ctrl D in order to duplicate this whole thing. So we need how many parameters? We need one for name, one for email, one for username, one for password. So we need to create 3 more of this. So let's just create 3 more of this, 1, 2 and 3, now 4. Okay, now let's just change the IDs for them. The first one will be for name, the second one will be for the email, so I'll say email. The third one will be for username, so I'll say username. The third one will be for password, so I will say pass. Okay, now let's just change the hint for all of them also. So the second one is for email, so enter your email. The third one is for username, so enter a username. And the last one is for password, so I will say enter your password. Now let's just give them a bit of margin from every side, so I will say margin from left, or let's just put margin all, so I'll say margin to be 10 dp. Okay, that's look good. Now let's just copy this attribute and paste it in every other attribute, in every other element. Okay, so now let's just remove the margin bottom because it is looking little bit of awkward. So I'll say margin bottom or margin top to be 0 for the last one, so 0 dp. Or okay, and margin bottom for others, so I'll say margin bottom to be 0 dp. Okay, so it seems like it is not working, so let's just try changing the position of these attributes. Okay, so instead we need to specify the margin separately, so I'll say margin left to be 10 dp and margin right to be 10 dp as well. Okay, so let's just copy them, both of them, and let's just put everywhere. Okay, okay, so now let's just put a text view about this, so I'll say to be mesh parent and wrap content, and it will say registration page. Okay, now put the text on the center, then change the color of the text to be white and the text size to be 30 sp and the text style to be bold. Okay, so now let's just give a little bit of margin from top and bottom, so I'll say margin top to be 35 dp. Okay, and the margin bottom to be 35 dp as well. Okay, now let's look good. Okay, so let's just close this, and now I want an image view at the center. Okay, so what we can do, let's just change the gravity of this linear layout to be center. Okay, so as you can see, we cannot use center here because it will center everything by vertically and horizontally, so but we do not want it to be centered vertically, so instead of center I will say center horizontal. Okay, so now it is centered horizontally. So now let's just add an image view below this. I'll say image view, image view with the layout width of wrap content and layout height of wrap content as well. Now I want an image to be stored here, so let's just put the image of strawberry here, or the one which we use as a background of the linear layout in the page 1. So that was of apple, so let's just select it only, and let's just specify the height and width of this image so that it doesn't expand to the full screen. So let's just specify an height of 220 dp, width of 220 dp, and a height of 220 dp as well to make it square. Okay, let's just reduce the height a little bit to 180 dp. Now that's look good. Okay, and set the scale type of this image to be fit center. Okay, now let's just give this image an id of profile img, and then we want two radio buttons for specifying the gender of the user. So let's just put radio group. Now why we want to use radio group? Because we want user to select any one value from the two buttons. Okay, we don't want user to select both of them. Okay, so that is why we are using a radio group, so that if the user clicks on one button and then clicks on another button, then the first one will be unchecked automatically. Okay, so let's just use the radio group and make it the width to be match parent and the layout height to be wrap content. Okay, so now let's just add the radio button. Okay, so now I will say radio button and the text will be male change the text size style to be bold and text size to be 20 sp. Okay, and the text color to be white. Okay, let's just change the color of this radio group as well. Okay, so now let's just add an id to it to be gender male. Okay, add sign plus id slash. Okay, let's just copy this and paste it again. Change the id to female and change the text to be female as well. Okay, so now we want them to align not vertically, we want them to align linearly, horizontally. So what we'll do, let's just give the orientation attribute horizontal to them. Okay, and we want them to be assigned at the center, so I'll say gravity to be center. Okay, center horizontal will work fine because we have used the layout height to be wrap content. Okay, let's just add some margin between these three. So I will say on the last edit text attribute, I will say margin at the bottom to be 10 dp and image view, that margin at the bottom to be 10 dp as well. Okay, so now let's just add a button in order to save this thing and move on to the first activity. So I will say button height of match parent, width of match parent and height of wrap content. I will change the color, background color of this button to be white, and add some text to it with the, so I'll say register, and then change the text color to be color accent, so I'll say text color to be color primary. Then let's make the text a little bit bigger and bolder, so I will say text size to be 25 sp or 20 sp. 25 sp looks a little bit bigger, so I'll say 20 sp, and then I'll say text style to be bold. Okay, now let's just give this an ID of register. We have already written register, so let's just say button, or say register now button. Okay, so now let's put some margin to it, so I'll say margin. Now I'll assign the margin of 10 dp from every side. Okay, this look good. Now let's just check it out, so let's just reinstall our app. Oh, we forgot to put the closing tag, so now let's just reinstall app. Now if I click on this register now button, now as you can see our registration page looks like this. Okay, so now one thing I want to change, that for the password I don't want, if I write something, I don't want the text to be shown. Okay, so I want to be to convert it to be in the dots instead. Okay, so for that I will change the input type attribute for this edit text, so I will say input type to be text password. Okay, so now if I run our application again, click on this button, now if I type something, now as you can see, as I am typing, it is getting changed to the dot, so it is not visible to other user. And this is our radio button. Now as you can see, if I click one button, if I click on one radio button and then on another, the first one will be automatically unchanged. Okay, so the color of this radio button is actually the color of our color primary dark. So if I want to change the outline of this circle, so I have to change that outline color primary dark. Okay, so right now let's just don't alter it, or let's keep it as it is. And now let's move on to our code in order to add the functionalities to this registration page and pass it the data with the intent. Okay, so now let's just open the Java and the registration.class file. Okay, so now let's just create the variables first. So I will say private edit text, and the first one will be for our name. Let's just name it name or edt name. The second one was for email ID, so I will say edt email. The third one was for the username, so I will say edt uname. The u will be capital, and the last one will be for the password, so I will say edt pass. Okay, that's it for the edit text. Now let's just add one for the button, radio group and image view. So I will say private image view to be profile image img. One for the button, I will say radio groups, I will say radio group gender, and then for the button I will say private button to be register now ptn. Okay, let's make this radio group private as well. Okay, so now let's just initialize this attribute first. So for initializing these attributes, what we need to do is edt name, and then I will type, this will be of type edit text, and then I will say find view by id to be r dot id dot for the name it was edt name, and then put the semicolon and just duplicate these lines 3 times. Okay, so the next one was my email, so I will say edt email, and then change the id here as well. I will say edt email, then here I will change it from email to uname, and change the id here as well to uname. Now the last one was for the passwords. I will say edt pass, and then the id to be edt pass as well. Okay, so now let's just initialize the image. So I will say profile image to be of image view type, I will say find view by id r dot id dot profile image. Okay, so now let's just put the semicolon, and now let's just initialize the button. So I'll say register now button, then it will be of type button, and then find view by id, then r dot id dot register now button. Okay, so now after initializing them, we need some more attributes here, we need some more variables here. So we need some more variables here. So let me explain you. The one string variable will be needed for the value to identify the value of the gender. So we will put the whatever the what we'll do, that whenever the user selects a button, we will check that value and put it in the string variable. So for that we will type string, let's take a string variable of with the name gender type, and let's just put it as an empty string. Now in order to store the path of the photo, let's just take another string variable to be photo path. Okay, and let's just assign this variable to be empty as well. Now in order to select a photo and process a photo, we need a variable of a bitmap type. Okay, So for that, let's just type bitmap, select the second one, and give this variable name bitmap as well. Okay, so now we need one more variable, and that is of that will be a constant of integer type, and that will be used as a image request code whenever the user select an image. We will use the image request code in order to check whether the user has selected an image or not for the verification purpose. So we will say uh, final integer, and always type your always remember, type your constants in a capital letters. So we will say image, so we will say image request code equals to, let's just set the value of this code to be 1000. Okay, so now that's are the variable that will be required. So now let's just implement the logic to listen to the clicks of the user. So we have studied three ways to we have studied about the three ways through which we can listen to the clicks of the user. So let's just make this whole class private to be a listener, as we have multiple listeners here. So let's just implement on click listener on this class. So we will say on click listener. Okay, and we also have a radio button, so we need to add a check change listener for that, so that we can listen to the check of the radio buttons when they were changed. Okay, so for that we will type after the comma on check change listener, click on OK, and now as you can see the radio group dot on check change listener is added. Okay, so now we need to implement some methods for these two listeners. Okay, so remember to implement them outside of this on create method. Right click on the editor and then generate, and then to implement methods. Okay, now select these two and click on OK. Now as you can see, two methods are being override here, and that are of on click, and that another one is on check change. Okay, so now we need to assign the listeners to this button image view, buttons and image view. Okay, so now let's just type register now button dot set on click listener. Now on click listener is this class, so we'll say this. Okay, now for the image view we will type image profile image dot set on click listener this. Okay, so now for the radio group we will say gender. Okay, dot set on check listener to be this. Okay, so now we need to set an image to our image view. So for that we will type we will use the bitmap object, and we will write bitmap equals to we will use the bitmap factory and say bitmap factory dot decode byte decode resources, and then we will this method will take two arguments. For the first one will be the get resource. In order to get the resource, the first one will be get resource in order to get the resource, and the second one will be the id of the resource, which will be inside the drawable folder. So r.drawable dot let's set it to be the apple, so healthy. Okay, and the semicolon at the end. And now let's just set this bitmap to the image view. So I will say image or profile image dot set image resource, or instead I will use set image bitmap to be bitmap. Okay, so now let's just implement this on click method. Okay, so here we have two types of listener. The first one is our button, and the second one is our image view. So first of all, we need to differentiate between those clicks that which UI component has been clicked. Okay, so first of all we need to identify that, and for that we will use this parameter view type. So let's just rename it to view first for the better understanding. And now we can use the switch statement in order to switch between the different cases. So we can write switch, and then we can say view dot get id in order to get the id of the view. Now let's just put an opening curly brace and the closing curly brace, and now we can switch between the different views using the id of that view. So first of all we will write our first case, and that will be for the button. So I will write case and then r dot id dot the name of our button, which was register now button. Okay, now put the semicolon, put the colon at the end, and now we can use the intent in order to pass the data with it. So let's just create an object of the intent first. So I will say intent equals to new intent and then in the parameters I will pass the source activity and the destination activity, that is registration dot this, and my second activity is home activity home dot class. Okay, and the semicolon at the end. So now I want to pass the data, and for that we have a method with the intent object with the name put extra. So using the extras we can pass the data with the intent object. Okay, so we will write intent dot put extra, and the this put extra method will take two parameters as an argument, and the first one will be the key which have some value. Using the key value pair we will be passing the data between two activities. So always remember to name your keys in the capital letters. So the first one I will pass the name of the user, so I'll write name, and then the name value will be stored in my ADT name, so I will write ADT name dot get text dot to string. Okay, so I'll put the semicolon at the end, and now for every other variables I have to do the same thing. So I will say intent dot put extra. Then for the email I will say email in the caps. I will say email, and then in the second parameter I will say edt email dot get text dot to string. Okay, and then the semicolon at the end. Then I will type intent. Then I will type intent dot put extra. This one will be for the username, so I will say user name, and then edt uname dot get text dot to string, and the semicolon at the end. Okay, and the last one will be for the password, and the next one will be for the password. So I will say intent dot put extra, and then we will type password and then we will say edt pass dot get text dot to string, and the semicolon at the end. Now we want to pass the gender type, so I will say the intent dot put extra, and then I will say gender type. Notice one thing, that I am not using space whenever I need to separate two different words, because the space will can create and compile time or runtime error. So instead of space I am using underscores. Okay, so remember that don't use space whenever you are passing any value as a key. Okay, then I will pass the gender type string, so I'll say gender type. Okay, then now I want to pass the user's profile image that he or she might have selected. So for doing that, first of all I need an object of an byte stream. Okay, so I needed to convert the image into the byte array or a byte, and then I need to pass that stream value to the intent object. So for that, first of all we'll create an byte array output stream. Okay, so we will write byte array output stream. Okay, not input stream, byte array output stream, and we'll create the object of it as stream, and then let's just create new object using new keyword, new byte array output stream, and then put the semicolon at the end. Now we need to compress this, so I'll say bitmap dot compress, then bitmap dot compress, and the format will be in PNG, and the next argument will be of to define the quality of the image. So I want the quality of the image to stay at the 100%, so I will say 100. And then as a third argument, we need to actually pass the byte array output streams object, so that is stream. So I will say stream and then semicolon at the end. So next I need to create a byte array, so I will say byte and then square brackets for the defining array, and I will name it as byte array, and then I will assign it to stream using the stream object. I will say stream dot byte to byte array. This will convert my image to the byte array. Okay, so now let's just pass this as a byte array. So I will say intent dot put extra, and I will say the name of the key to be picture, and the value will be byte array, and the semicolon at the end. Okay, so now all I need is to start the activity for this intent. So I will say start activity and then pass the object of the intent, that is intent. Okay, so this was for the click of the button. So now let's just create a second case for the click of the image. So first of all we need to break this case, so for that I will say break. Okay, so now let's just create the case 2, that is for the click of an image view. So I will say case r dot id dot profile image. Okay, so when the profile image is clicked, I will say intent. Now the another use of the intent is used to implicitly open any activities. Okay, the another use of the intent is to use open other activities or other applications of the phone as well. So using intent object, I can open my the photos application on my phone in order to select images as well. So let's just do that. In order to select the profile image of the user, so I will say intent, and then I will name the object of the intent as intent image, and then let's just create an object using new keyword intent, and then in the parameter in the parenthesis of this intent constructor, I will pass intent dot, I will use a method, I will use a function known as intent get content. Okay, so now as you can see, autocomplete feature of Android is already suggesting me some functions, but for now we will look at action underscore get content. Okay, and put the semicolon at the end. Now this get content function will help us to open the photos or application on the phone and select an image. Okay, so now let's just refer to this object intent image and set the type of the file that will be getting selected to be of image type, which can be of any file format of image. Okay, which can be of JPG and or PNG, and to do that we have to specify that type can be of any, so we will say slash star or asterisk. Okay, so now we need to put this in the double quotes, so select this whole thing and double quotes. Okay, so now put the semicolon at the end, and now we need to start the activity. Okay, but for now, for this intent, we do not want to start the activity only. We need to start the activity for the results, because whenever we use this intent, this the object of this intent will always going to be return something. Okay, and so to take that thing, we need to start the activity for results. So we will say start activity for results, and then we will say intent. We will pass the intent object. We will say intent image, and then here we will pass the image request code that we have created earlier in order to get to fetch that results. Okay, so let us say image request code. This image request code will be used to see if the image has been or to check if the image has been fetched or not. Okay, so remember that. So now put a break. So now let's just run our application and see whether it is working or not. So now let's just click on register now button, and as you can see my application has been stopped. So let's just open the logcat and see what is the error. Now switch to error. Okay, so it says there is a null pointer exception trying to invoke method radio group on check change listener with a null object reference. Okay, so let's just open the line on which it is showing me an error. So okay, so we have forgotten to specify. So we have forgotten to implement the logic here. So let's just do that. Okay, so instead of giving this, passing the context as this, let's just pass the context as registration.this, and then let's just implement the on check change method here. Okay, so now we will say switch to the case check id. Okay, here this method gives me two parameters. The one will be of radio group type, which will be named as group, and the second one is of integer type named as checked id. This is the id of the radio button which is checked. So I will say switch on check id, and now if the case is r.id dot male, gender male, then what we will do is simply set the string value of gender type to be of male. Okay, and then we'll break this case statement, and then we'll say for case r dot id for female type gender, we will say gender type to be female, semicolon at the end, and break. Okay, so now let's just run our application and see whether it is working or not. Oops, there is an extra. Okay, so let's just run our application again. Now let's just click on this button, and it has stopped again. So as you can see, developing an Android app is a whole process of trial and error. So we need to try until we reach to the solution. So it is still saying me that is error on line 43. Oh, so the problem here is we have not initialized the radio group object here, and we are directly assigning it to this activity. Okay, so first of all we need to initialize that object. So I will say gender to be of radio group type, and I will say find view by id કેવી થયેલી સોફા પર 10 થેલી પડી
પતરે એટલે ના હવે કપડાની કોમ્પ્યુટર ને શું
find view by id r dot id dot gender. Oh, we have not assigned an id, so let's just assign the id to the registration group, radio group. So I will say id let's just say radio group. Okay, now let's just say radio group. Okay, so now let's just run our app and see whether it is working or not. Now if I click on this button, and now as you can see it is opened the registration page for me, and now if I click on this image icon, as you can see it has opened the photos application for me, and now from here I can select any image. So I don't think there will be any image in my phone right now, so let's just click back, and now as you can see we can now click on the register button and move to the second activity. But as I tried to click on that button, I think my app got crashed. So let's just try it again. Here is my application registered. If I try to click, and as you can see the application is been crashed. So let's just look at the problem here. Open the logcat, and it says fragment activity for results. Okay, so it says there is an error here. So let's see whether we have specified the home activity in our manifest file or not. It is specified. Okay, so it is because we have not So now let's just design our home page activity. Okay, so now let's just design our home page activity. So click on the project, Java, package name, and home.class, and click on the controller command and click on the activity home in order to open the home activity. So now here we will design our home activity. So for doing that, let's just switch on the split view, change the background color. Okay, change the layout from constraint to linear. and change the background color to be color primary. Okay, so now let's just change the orientation from horizontal to vertical. Now let's just put some text views here. Text view, the width will be mesh parent and the height will be wrap content. Then the text, the text will be, let's just put text for now, and then let's just set the text color to be white and the text style to be bold. The text size to be 20 sp. Okay, and then let's assign it an ID of the first one will be of name. So I'll say @sign plus ID slash name, and also let's just assign some margins to it. So I'll say margin from the left will be of 10 dp. Okay, so that's look good. Okay, so now let's just duplicate this 3 times, 1 2 and 3, enter, enter. So let's just change the ID for it. So I'll say the second one will be for email. Okay, the third one will be for the username, so uname. The fourth one will be for the password, so I'll say password. Okay, so now let's just put an image view below it. So let's just assign some bottom margin to it. So I'll say margin bottom to be of 20 dp, and then let's just assign put an image view. So I'll say image view with the width of 220 dp and the height to be of 180 dp. Okay, so now let's just give this image view an ID of ID profile. Okay, just remember one thing, don't duplicate the name of the ID by mistake, or otherwise it can be it can use the different image view instead of the one which we want to use. Okay, so now let's just close it, and then after the image view we have forgotten the gender. Okay, so let's just put another text view for the gender. I'll say this ID to be gender. Okay, or GEN. Okay, so let's just remove the bottom margin from this. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so now let's just center this every whole thing. So I will say orientation to be orientation not orientation, gravity to be center horizontal. Okay, so now it is center. Let's just put this image view on the top right here. Okay, that's fine. So instead of bottom, I'll say the margin top of this first text view, that is margin top to be of 20 dp. Okay, and the margin top for this as well, so margin top to be 30 dp. Okay, now that's look good. Okay, so let's just open the Java file, and now let's just implement our code. So let's just create our reference variable first. I will say text view dot txt name then let's just assign every value right here. So I'll say txt name for txt email, then for username so txt uname, and then for the passwords I will say txt password, txt pass, and then for the gender I will say txt gender, and then for the image I will say, oh, I have to create the image view for that. Let's just make it private. Okay, so the next line, let's say image view, and I will say img saved. Let's just say image view. Okay, so now let's just instantiate them. Txt name, is it working? Okay, so I will say txt name, equals to of text view type, and then I will say find view by id r.id dot name. Okay, so put the semicolon and let's just duplicate this, and 1 2 3. Okay, so now this will be for email, and here will be email, this one. Okay, now the next one will be for the username, so I'll say uname, and then this one will be for the username for uname. Okay, so this one will be for the password, so I will say password, and this one will be for the password, so I will say password. Okay, so now let's just instantiate the image view. So I will say image view equals to type image view. I will say find view by id r.id dot image profile. No, not profile image. Activity home, and the id of the image is profile. Okay. So now, in order to get the data from the intent, we need to create an object of bundle type, okay, which will get the data of the intent. So for doing that, let's just create another object inside the onCreate method of bundle type. We'll set bundle, and let's name it as extra, and let's assign it a value of get extra. We will use two methods in order to get the data from the intent, and that are get intent dot get extra, and put the semicolon at the end. Now let's just take a string value name, and then is it similar? No. So we will say extra using the bundle object extra dot get string, and here inside this parameter we will use the key that we have used while passing the data, that is name. Okay, as you can see here we have used the key name here, so we have to use the same key in order to fetch the data. So we will say name, okay, and put the semicolon at the end. Now we will do the same thing for other data as well. So I will say, let's just paste this several times. Okay, so now let's just name it as email, then username, uname, then password, and then gender type. now let's just change this key as well. This will be email. This one will be username. Let's just copy this, paste it here. Then it will be password. And then it will be gender type. Okay, so now we need to set these values on the text view. We want to set this value on the text view. Okay, so for that we will simply do txt email txt name dot set text, and then we will set the text value to be name. And similarly for others we will do, let's just duplicate this, 1 2 3 4. Okay, so now I will say txt email, then txt uname, then txt pass, and txt gender type, txt gender. Okay, so this will take the value email. Okay, this will take the value username. Okay, this will take the value password. Okay, and this will take the value of gender type. Okay, so now let's just do it for the image view, but for first we need an byte array in order to fetch the image view. So I will say byte array with the name byte array as well. I will say equals to extras dot get byte array, and then I will put the key picture picture. Okay, and then I put the semicolon at the end, and then I will use then bitmap and create a object of the bitmap, and then I will say bitmap factory dot, we need to decode the byte array, so I will say decode byte array, then pass the byte array object, and then I'll say 0 dot from the offset will be the length from which we need to start. The second argument will be for the offset, which I have specified to be 0, and the third argument will be of byte array dot length. Okay, and we'll put the semicolon at the end. And now let's just set the image view. So I will say profile what is the name of image view? It's image view. Image view dot set image resource, or no, we cannot use image resource here because we are using the bitmap. So I'll say set image bitmap and pass the bitmap object. Okay, so now that's it. So let's just try our app and see whether it is working or not. Let's just click on register now. Let's just fill something. Enter your name, Burhanuddin, email xyz@gmail.com, username to be Burhanuddin as well, the password will be anything, and the gender male, and click on register. And as you can see, my application has been crashed. So let's just open the logcat to check the reason that why it is getting crashed. Okay, so let's just open the logcat, and now let's just see for an error. Says fatal exception, Java binder exception. So there is a problem when we were transferring the data between the activities. So let's just open the registration activity line 69, and it says error on start activity intent. Okay, so let's just see what is the error here. So it says that there is a Java binder exception. Okay, so let's just copy this thing and see, search on the Google, and in order to debug our application. Now let's just open the first link of the Stack Overflow. As I said earlier, you will find the 99% solution of your problems on the Stack Overflow website. Okay, so now it says that this might be occurring due to the large size of our image. Okay, so this might be the case because the size of our image is very large, so we might be exceeding the limit of the parcel object. Okay, so let's just try by commenting this image, and now let's just also comment this thing out. Okay, now let's just try to reinstall our app and see whether it is working or not. Okay, let's just put Burhanuddin email xyz@gmail.com, username to be Burhanuddin as well, and then password to be anything. Put the gender and register now. It has stopped again. Let's just open the logcat. Now it says there is an activity on home line 37. Okay, here this is not, oh, we have forgotten to initialize this thing. Okay, so let's just do txt gender equals to this will be of type text view. So I'll say find view by id r.id dot what was the name, gen. Okay, so let's just run our application again. Oh, semicolon. So here you can see how you can debug your application in order to make it run successfully. So now let's just click on the register now button. Let's just enter some values. Let's say Burhanuddin. Okay, let's just select one. And now, as you can see, the data has been successfully passed from my registration activity to the home activity. Okay, so now the reason for image view to be not passed was that the size of the image that we were passing was very large and it was exceeding the limit of the parserable object. So but now you know that how you can pass the image between two activities. So give it a try with the lower resolution image and it may work. Okay, so now here was how you can pass the image pass the data from one activity to the another activity. But what if here in our app, let's just open the page one layout. But okay, so what if here in our app the user do not want to register first and the user first want to go to the home screen and then he want to register herself? So in that scenario we need to pass the data from the second activity, that is from registration activity, to the home activity. Okay, so now let's just open this page one activity and now let's say if we want to pass the data or get the data from any from another activity, then what we should do, because we are just passing the data from one activity to other activity in this. Okay, but what if we want to get the data from other activity? So now let's just try to implement this. So now let's just add another button in this activity. So I'll copy this and Ctrl D to duplicate this, and then I will give it an ID of btn home. Okay, so now let's just add this button here, private button. Oh, let's just add the variable inside this only. I'll say comma btn home. Okay, now let's just instantiate it. I'll say btn home and then I'll say it will be of type button, then find view by id r.id dot btn home. Okay, and the semicolon at the end. Now when the user clicked on this button, I want the user to be moved to be another activity, btn home button. I want the user to be moved to the home 2 activity. Okay, so let's just create a new activity in our project. Open the Java, click on the package, right click on it, new, and then activity, then click on the empty activity, and then I'll say home 2. Okay, now click on finish. Let's just wait until the activity is generated. Now it is showing me an error, so I will just invalidate cache and restart my Android Studio. So here it is. let's just wait till my project is ready. And now okay, so now my project is ready now. Okay, so now let's just design the home to activity. I want this activity to be same as the first one, that is the home activity. So I'll just put here, let's change it to the linear layout. Okay, linear layout. And now let's just go to the home activity home. Here it is. Let's just copy this all down till the bottom. Okay, now let's just copy, and home to activity, I'll paste it here, and let's just open this again, and let's just copy this whole thing also, and then I'll paste it here. Okay, so now let's just fit the split view. Okay, let's just remove this image view from the activity. Okay, so now let's just open my registration page. Okay, oh, my home. Okay, so this is my home page Java file. So now we need a button here in a home to activity in order to move to the second activity. Okay, so let's just open let's just create a button. I'll say button with the width of mesh parent and the height of wrap content. I will set the text, let's just hide it. Okay, so I'll set the text to register. Okay, let's just change the background to white and the text color to be color primary, and text size to be 25 sp. Okay, so now let's just give this button an ID of new register. Okay, and then click on the closing braces. Oh, it will be @ plus ID slash. Okay, so now let's just open. Okay, now let's just open the home 2. Now let's just create a reference for it. I'll say private button, and then I will say new register, and then let's just instantiate it. I'll say new register equals to, it will be of type button. I'll say find view by ID r.id dot new register. Okay, then semicolon at the end. Now let's just create a listener for this. I'll say new register dot set on click listener, new on click listener. Okay, so let's just create an intent object and move to the registration of activity. So I'll say intent equals to new intent. Let's just pass the activities here. So I will say first one will be home2 dot this, and second one will be registration dot class. Okay, and then the semicolon at the end, and then I will just simply say start activity intent. Okay, so this will move move the user from the home to registration activity. So now let's just open registration.java page. Now we need an And now instead of creating these keys manually, let's just create them as a constant. So I will say public static final, so that the value will not be changed, and the string, and as it is a constant, I will write in the capital letters. So I will say request text field name. Okay, request text field name, and then I'll say request name. Okay, like that, and semicolon at the end. And now let's just duplicate these values several times. 1 2 3. Okay, so now this will be request text field for email, and this will be also email. Now this will be for the username, so let's just change it to the username, and this will be for the username as well. Now this will be for password, so let's just change it to the password. This will be for password as well. Okay, so now let's just implement a on-click listener when the registration is done. So as we have already implemented a click listener, let's just try and find out a way so that we can differentiate between the two activities that from which it has been passed. So we can do it in the same way as we have done. So I can say that when I pass the activity intent, when I do the intent here, or what can I do? Why is there two buttons here? Oh, not in the, oh, we have placed the button in the wrong file. So let's just open the home 2 activity. Okay, so why was two button there? Something was might wrong. So what will do? So let's just create a new registration page. Actually we can do that in another way, but we have not learned about that way yet, so I will leave it for now. We can actually do this with the help of shared preference, but for now let's just leave it, and let's just create a new activity. I will say it the blank, say it as a blank activity. I will let's just name it as let's just name it as registration reg maybe. Okay, let's just generate a layout file for it, and now let's just wait. Okay, so it is it's created. Now let's just open the activity registration, and let's just copy this whole thing from here to down to the bottom. Okay, okay, so let's just switch the preview. Okay, now let's just select them all and paste it. Okay, so now let's just remove this image view from here. Okay, and let's just remove this radio group as well. Let's just remove it. Okay, so now we want these four things. Okay, so on the click of this button, okay, we need to move to the home activity. So we need to implement a logic here. Okay, so from the registration page here, let's just cut them out and put them inside this registration.java file. So right here Okay, so now let's just implement our logic here, that when the button is clicked, that is the register button is clicked, let's just create that button first. Okay, so I'll say private button, then btn register, btn reg. Okay, so now I'll say btn reg equals to type button, then find view by id r.id dot btn reg, then let's set the on click listener. I'll say btn reg dot set on click listener, then new on click listener, and then let's create the object of intent. I'll say intent, then data equals to new intent, then I'll say data dot put extra, then let's just refer to the key here. So I'll say the name, for the name I'll say request text field dot name, and the second one will be edt. Oh, so we haven't initialized the text view yet, so let's just initialize the text view as well. So I'll say private edt name, then edt what was else, edt email, then edt uname, and edt password, and this all will be of type edit text. So I'll say edit text. Okay, now it is ready. Now I can say edt name dot get text dot to string. Let's just instantiate first. Okay, so I'll say edt name email of type edit text, then I will say find view by id r.id dot edt name email. Okay, so semicolon at the end. Let's just duplicate them several times, and then I'll say it is for name, and name here as well. Oh, so let's just do that change the id of that variable of that UI components in our reg.xml file, because it will be same as the registration.xml file, and we do not want duplicacy, remember. So this will be for uname, and this will be for password. Okay, so registration.xml file, and let's just change the names. Okay, so let's just put it as edt name with n small. Oh, we have already. Okay, so let's just change it to name edt in reverse. Okay, so let's just make it same email edt. This one will be uname edt, and this one will be pass edt. Okay, so now let's just change them back. So this one will be email edt, this one will be name edt, this one will be uname edt, and this one will be pass edt. Okay, so now let's just continue building this. Okay, so let's just duplicate it several times, and now I want the next one for the email. So I'll just say email here, Then for the username, so I'll say username here. Copy this here, password here. Okay, so now let's just change this as well. It will be name edit, right? No, oh, edit name. Let's just put them here. First one for the name, second one for the email, the third one for the username, and the last one for the password. Okay, so now let's just use the set result method in order to set the value of the results. Okay, so remember when we were setting we were going from registration to the home. In the first one we were using the start activity intent in order to pass the data, but here we are using the set result activity in order to set the result, because we will not be completely transitioning from the one activity to another. We will just open the other activity and get fetch the data from it to the other activity. So for that we will use set results, and we will use result OK here. Now result OK is a function which is very useful. It will say that okay, you are now ready to pass the data. Okay, so it is used as a confirmation. Okay, so result OK, and the next as a second parameter we will pass the object of the intent, that is data. Okay, so now let's just click add the finish in order to in order to move from this activity to the previous activity, that is activity home 2. Okay, so now let's just move on to the activity 1, that is home2.java. And now first we need to change this here. Now we cannot do just start activity. We need to start activity for the results, because we want to fetch some results from the previous activity. So I will say activity for results here instead of start activity. Okay, and then here I need to pass several other elements. Okay, so I will say activity intent, and then we need a request code in order to verify the move. Okay, so we will take as a constant here. So I will say private static final, and then it will be of integer type. So I will say as it is a constant, writing it in caps with the caps on. So I'll say request code of move, and I will set the value to be 1000. Okay, so now I will pass that request code here. So let's just copy it from here and paste it right here. Okay, so now we need to fetch that data into and set it into our activity into our layout. Okay, so we cannot do that in the own create. Okay, because initially we will not have any data. Then we have to move the user to the next activity to fill up and the fetch data. Okay, so for that we have another method which will be called as on activity results. So after we get result, this method will get executed. So remember, we need to put this method outside of the onCreate method. So let's just put this method here, and as I write on activity result now as you can see, autocomplete feature of Android is suggesting me a method, and we will now as you can see autocomplete feature. And now as you can see, autocomplete feature of Android is suggesting me a method, and we are going to use this on activity result method in order to fetch the result of the uh, uh, from the intent. Okay, so now as you can see, this activity result method is three parameters. One is request code, and now let's just implement our logic here. So we will say, if we will use this request code parameter here, and we will say if the request code is equals to request code move. Okay, if the request code is equals to this request code move, because we remember when we are moving, we have passed this request code move parameter as well. So we will say if the request code is equals to request code move, and we will use the logical AND here, and we will say if the request code is equals to request okay, that is the confirmation message. Okay, then what we should do is we should set the string values. Okay, so I'll say I will take a variable, or let's just put it directly. Okay, so I'll say txt name. What is the name of my variable? Okay, so we haven't initialized the variables yet. Have we changed the id? No. So let's just change the id first. I'll say it as txt name. I will say it as txt name, this as txt email, this as txt uname, this as txt pass, and just remove this one for the gender, but we do not want that now. So let's just open the home activity here. Now let's just type private text view, then txt or name txt, then the next one was email txt, then uname txt, then for pass txt. Okay, now let's just initialize them, instantiate them. I'll say name txt equals to of text view type find viewer id r.id dot name txt name. Okay, and then let's just duplicate them for several times, and then I'll say email txt, and then uname txt, then pass txt. Okay, let's just change it here also. I'll say txt email, txt uname, and then txt pass for the password. Okay, so now let's just say txt name, and then dot set text to be, we can directly set it as let's just get the data from the intent. We'll say data dot get string extra, and then we will say we need to pass it. We need to fetch it from rej class. So we'll say rej dot, here it is, rej dot, and then we will pass the as you can see, autocomplete feature of Android is already suggesting me the static variables that we have used, and because we have made them public, now we can use it from another class. Okay, so I'll use request text name for the name, and let's just duplicate it for several times. Control D. Now I'll use it for email txt, this one's for uname txt, and this one for pass txt. And now instead of this, I'll say request for email, I'll say request for username, and finally request for password. Now it is done. Now let's just run our application and see whether it is working or not. Oh, okay. Now I remember that why we have put that second button in it. Okay, so why btn home? Oh yeah, we have actually removed this button by mistake, so we need another button here in order to go to the home screen. Okay, so btn registration. Okay, so I will rename it as btn home. Okay, so let's just go to the page 1 here, and then let's just change it to btn home, and then I'll set it for btn home, okay, and then change it to okay, it is already on home too. So now let's just run our application and see how it is working or not. Now okay, let's just change the text on the button as well. Where it is, okay, let's just open it from here and change the text to go to home. Okay, now let's just reinstall our application and see how does it look. Okay, so now let's just click on go to home, and now as you can see here are the empty text views. Now let's just click on this register button, and as you can see we are on the registration page now. Okay, so there is an error. We are not supposed to be on this page. We need to go to an reg page. So now let's just go back to the home too, and instead of going into the registration page, we'll go to reg.class. Okay, so now let's just reinstall our application and see whether it is working or not. Now let's just go to the home. Now click on the registration button, and now as you can see the application has been crashed. So now let's just open the logcat and see what is the problem here. Scroll down, scroll to the top a little bit. And here is the problem. Null pointer button set. Okay, so there is a null pointer reference here. btn1 main activity is Java. So let's just remove this listener here which is causing the error. Let's just try to rerun the app. We might have used the name anywhere else also. Let's just go to btn1 register. It stopped again. Okay, let's just open the logcat again. Okay, so here it is showing me a null pointer exception, attempt to invoke virtual method. Okay, so it is showing me a null pointer exception, and it is on line 32. Okay, in this reg registration file. Okay, so it is showing me an error here. So let's just check that whether we have done any mistake or not. Okay, so I think I have not initiate this button properly. So let's just check whether this ID is present in our layout or not. So let's just hold the control command and click on this activity reg. Okay, let's just go for the button here. Okay, so now we have found the error that the name of the button is wrong here. Okay, so let's just copy this button, and now let's just go back to this page, and now let's just paste it, and now let's just paste it. Okay, so now the error might be gone. Okay, so now let's just take a look at the code. Let's just take a look at the code a little bit in order to see whether there are any more errors or not. So this looks fine to me. Now let's just check out the home page also. Okay, so I think there is something wrong in this line. It says condition request code equal to request code move and is always false. Why this condition will be always false? Because when I am passing request code uh, uh, result, when I am passing result okay, it will be true. Okay, so here is a mistake. We have mistakenly used request code instead of result code, so that is why the null pointer exception was occurring. So actually it was not because of the button, it was of this line of code. Okay, so as you can see, it was showing me an error or in a reg.java file, but actually the error was present in home2.java file. So here was the actual error. So what was happening, that whenever I was trying to click on that register button, then the instead of result the first condition, which is request code equals to request code move, was always true, but the second condition, which is request code equals to result okay, which was always false. That's why the text fields on the home screen were getting no values. Okay, and we have not specified anything to that what to do if there is no value given by the user. So that was an error. Okay, so let's just change this request code to the result code. So let's just write it as result code, and now we should be good to go. Okay, so let's just run our application again and see whether it is working or not. So now let's just click on this go to home button. Now let's just click on register, and as you can see, we are now moved on to the next page. Now let's just enter some value and see whether it is working or not. Let's just enter a name. Let's just enter anything. Now let's just click on register button, and now as you can see, the data has been successfully passed from the registration screen to the home screen. Now you may ask that, hey Burhanuddin, what is this? Where is the difference? In the both cases, we are transferring the data from the registration page to the home page. Okay, and yeah, in some point you are right. In both cases, we were doing the same thing. But if you notice one thing, let me open the application once again. When we are clicking on this register now button, first we will be taken to the registration page, and then when I click on register button, then only I was taken to the home page. When the user click on this register button, I was sure that user had entered some value, and that value will automatically occupy, or I can say it like this, that the fields on my home page will occupy some value. I was sure about that, but when I clicked on the go to home button, I was sure that the field on my home page will not occupy anything. Okay, but I cannot I cannot put them empty. Okay, because I am passing this code of getting result from the intent object. So intent object cannot be null. Okay, so that was the reason. In the first condition, we were sure that we will get some value, and then we will be moved to the second screen. But in the second condition, we were sure that we are not able to, we will not get any value at the initial phase, but in the second phase, we might get some value. Okay, so that was the reason that we use start activity result for the second method. Okay, so here was the difference, that why we have done it in two different ways. Okay, so that was it for this lecture, and see you in next lecture.